A chance meeting on the orbital research platform Helios 7. The artificial gravity flickered momentarily, a common occurrence that most inhabitants had learned to ignore. But for Nika Zorin, it was a helpful reminder of the precarious nature of existence within the hegemony's domain. Her iridescent blue skin caught the harsh laboratory lighting as she adjusted her position, continuing to examine cellular samples through the quantum microscope. "Still at it, Dr. Zorin?" The voice came from behind her, warm and distinctly human. Nika didn't need to turn to recognize Dominic Reed, the station's lead engineer. His presence had become increasingly distracting over the past 3 months. "The hegemony doesn't pay me to sleep, Engineer Reed," she replied, her voice carrying the musical tones characteristic of Novarians, like gentle wind chimes in a breeze. Dominic leaned against the doorframe, his dark eyes reflecting genuine interest in her work. Unlike most hegemony officials, he treated her as an equal, not as a conquered asset. "Find anything interesting in those cells?" he asked, approaching, to peer over her shoulder. Nika hesitated. Her research was classified, a comprehensive study of genetic compatibility between species, officially sanctioned to prevent contamination. Unofficially, she had begun exploring possibilities that would horrify her hegemony supervisors. "Nothing conclusive," she lied, the bioluminescent patterns along her temples pulsing slightly. A Novarian tell that Dominic had learned to read over their months of collaboration. "Your temples say otherwise," he whispered, standing close enough that she could feel his warmth. Humans ran hotter than Novarians, a biological difference that fascinated her both professionally and increasingly personally. Forbidden research later. That night in her private lab section, a small concession granted for her exceptional work, Nika reviewed her findings with growing excitement. The genetic bridges she'd designed could potentially allow for compatible gene expression between Novarians and humans. The implications were revolutionary and dangerous. The door slid open without a chime, startling her. "Working late again?" Dominic stood there holding 2 steaming mugs. "Thought you might need this." Nika quickly switched screens. "You shouldn't be here, Dominic. Unauthorized lab access after hours is a violation of Hegemony Directive 37B, I know." He smiled, setting a mug beside her. "But you've been skipping meals, and Novarian physiology requires consistent nutrition for optimal cognitive function." She blinked, surprised by his knowledge. "You've been studying my species? Know thy neighbor," he quoted. "Especially when that neighbor is the most brilliant geneticist in the sector." Their fingers brushed as she accepted the drink, sending an unexpected shiver through her nervous system. The station's environmental controls must be malfunctioning. Again, she told herself. "What is this?" she asked, examining the purple liquid. "Synthesized elberry tea, your people's traditional beverage. Took me 17 attempts to get the replicator to produce something drinkable." The gesture touched her deeply. Few humans bothered learning anything about Novarian culture beyond what was required for efficient oversight. "Thank you," she said simply, taking a careful sip. It wasn't perfect, but the familiar taste brought memories of home, of a time before the hegemony had integrated her world. Growing connections over the following weeks, their late-night conversations became routine. Dominic would bring tea, and Nika would cautiously share non-classified aspects of her work. He in turn spoke of Earth, a planet she had studied but never visited. "The Pacific Ocean at sunset," he described one night, "turns the exact shade of your skin when you're concentrating." The comparison made her temples glow brighter, and she turned away to hide her reaction. "The hegemony reports describe Earth as mostly depleted of resources," she said, attempting to maintain professional distance. Dominic's expression darkened momentarily. "The hegemony describes many things inaccurately." Something in his tone made her look up sharply. "That's dangerous talk, Engineer Reed." "Maybe," he acknowledged, his eyes meeting hers with unexpected intensity. "But haven't you ever wondered why they're so obsessed with genetic purity, Nika? Why the mere suggestion of interspecies relationships is punishable by recalibration?" She had wondered, more than was safe to admit. Her research had shown no scientific basis for the hegemony's strict segregation policies. "What are you suggesting?" she asked carefully. "That perhaps they fear what they cannot control." His hand moved closer to hers on the lab table. Connections they didn't authorize. The air between them seemed charged with possibility and danger. Discovery. The breakthrough came 3 months later. Nika stared at her results in disbelief. She had successfully created a viable genetic pathway between Novarian and human DNA. The implications were staggering. Her first thought was to tell Dominic. Her second thought was that this revelation could get them both killed. The hegemony maintained power partially through division, keeping conquered species separated, preventing alliances. The science supporting their genetic purity laws had always been dubious. Now she had proof they were completely unfounded. When Dominic arrived that evening, he noticed her agitation immediately. "What happened?" he asked, scanning the lab for signs of trouble. "I did it," she whispered, her entire body glowing with suppressed excitement. "I found the connection pathway. Novarians and humans are genetically compatible with the right modifications." His eyes widened. "You're certain?" She nodded, pulling up the encrypted data on her private terminal. "The differences in our DNA aren't barriers. They're opportunities. With specific gene therapy, we could—" She faltered, suddenly aware of how personal this had become. The research had begun as scientific curiosity, but somewhere along the way, her motivation had shifted. Dominic stepped closer, his expression unreadable. "We could what, Nika?" "Coexist?" She finished lamely, though they both knew she meant much more. His hand found hers, warm fingers intertwining with her cooler ones. The simple touch sent cascades of bioluminescence racing across her skin. "I've wanted to do this since I first saw you," he confessed, his other hand gently tracing the glowing patterns on her forearm. "It's forbidden," she reminded him, even as she leaned closer. "The best things usually are." Their first kiss was hesitant, an experiment in itself. The second was not. Neither of them noticed the laboratory door sliding open, nor the shocked gasp of Lieutenant Jorax, the hegemony security officer making his nightly rounds. The punishment. The alarm klaxons woke the entire station. By morning, everyone knew. Dr. Nika Zoran had been arrested for genetic contamination, the hegemony's term for intimate contact between species. Dominic fought through the crowd gathered outside the central plaza, where public recalibrations were conducted, as warnings to others. His heart pounded with each step. This was his fault. He should have been more careful, should have protected her. Commander Threll, the hegemony's highest authority on Helios 7, stood resplendent in ceremonial armor at the center of the platform. Beside him, Nika knelt with her hands bound, her normally vibrant blue skin dulled with fear. Yet even now, she held her head high. "Citizens of the hegemony," Threll's amplified voice echoed across the plaza. "Today we witness the consequences of defying natural order. Dr. Nika Zoran, once a valued scientist, now stands condemned for the crime of genetic contamination." The crowd murmured appropriately. Most were hegemony loyalists, transferred to the station specifically for their devotion to the regime. The few non-humans present kept their gazes lowered, reminded of their place in the hierarchy. Her willing intimacy with a human threatens the purity of bloodlines established by hegemony. "Decree," Threll continued. "Furthermore, her research sought to undermine our fundamental biological truths." Dominic pushed forward, ignoring the guards' warning glances. He couldn't stand by and watch this happen. "For these crimes," Threll declared, "Nika Zoran will undergo complete neural recalibration. Her memories will be cleansed, her emotions reset, her mind repurposed to serve the hegemony with appropriate deference." Guards approached with gleaming instruments, nerve scramblers designed to strip identity while preserving technical knowledge. The ultimate punishment, becoming a shell of yourself, reprogrammed to serve those you once defied. Dominic had maintained his cover for 3 years, had built a new identity, buried his past so deeply that sometimes he almost believed the lie himself. In 53 seconds, he was about to throw it all away. "Wait." His voice carried across the suddenly silent plaza. Every head turned toward him, including Nika's. Her luminescent eyes widened in horror and desperate hope. "What is the meaning of this interruption?" Commander Threll demanded, irritated at the disruption of his ceremony. Dominic stepped into the empty circle surrounding the platform, feeling hundreds of eyes upon him. "I have a proposition." Engineer Reed, Threll's expression shifted from annoyance to amusement. "You wish to claim responsibility for your part in this indiscretion? How noble. We can arrange for you to join Dr. Zoran in recalibration." "Not quite," Dominic replied calmly. "I propose a challenge. If I defeat all your guards in combat, you release Dr. Zoran immediately." Laughter rippled through the crowd, starting with the officials and spreading outward. Threll's mouth curved into a contemptuous smile. "You, a human engineer? Against my elite hegemony guardsmen?" Dominic glanced at his outdated wrist chronometer. "I calculate it will take me approximately 45 seconds. If I fail, I'll join her for recalibration." Something in his tone made Threll's smile falter. "Very well. Your funeral will provide additional entertainment for our ceremony." He waved a hand dismissively. "Guards, apprehend this fool." As the first 4 guards descended from the platform, Dominic caught Nika's gaze one last time. In her eyes, he saw not just fear for him but a dawning recognition, as if she were seeing him clearly for the first time. "Beginning now," Dominic announced softly, and the hidden strength he'd concealed for 3 long years finally awakened. Defiance and freedom, impossible speed. What happened next would later be described in dozens of contradictory accounts. Some swore the human engineer moved faster than physically possible. Others claimed he barely seemed to move at all, that the guards simply fell around him as if struck by an invisible force. The first 4 guards rushed Dominic simultaneously. He sidestepped the leader, gripped his armor at precise junctures, and used the guard's momentum to send him crashing into his companions. They collapsed in a tangle of white armor and curses. 40 seconds remaining, Dominic announced calmly, as if keeping track of a routine maintenance schedule. 3 more guards attacked from behind. Without looking, Dominic dropped to one knee. Their synchronized swing missed, throwing them off balance. As they stumbled, he rose, his elbow connecting with one guard's helmet with enough force to crack the faceplate. The guard dropped unconscious. "Use stun batons," Commander Threll ordered, his amusement rapidly fading. 2 guards activated crackling energy weapons. Dominic moved between them with impossible precision, as if he'd calculated exactly where they would aim. He closed the distance in 3 fluid strides, disarmed both with a twisting motion that left their wrists sprained, and knocked their heads together with a sickening crack. 25 seconds, he called out, his breathing still perfectly even. The remaining guards hesitated, suddenly uncertain. Commander Threll, no longer amused, barked orders. "Use lethal force, now." 3 guards deployed riot shields and advanced in formation. Dominic waited until they were close, then stomped with precise force against a maintenance panel on the platform floor. The panel popped upward, disrupting their formation. In the moment of confusion, he slipped between them, struck nerve clusters through gaps in their armor and left them paralyzed. The last guard tried to flee. Dominic grabbed a fallen stun baton, calculated its weight in an instant, and threw it with surgical precision. It struck the guard's legs, tangling them and sending him headfirst into an open waste disposal chute. The hatch sealed automatically. Behind him. 5 seconds to spare, Dominic announced, turning to face Commander Threll. The plaza had fallen into stunned silence. 12 elite hegemony guards lay defeated or trapped. Dominic stood unruffled, not even breathing hard, his posture relaxed yet somehow more threatening than any combat stance. Threll's hand trembled as he reached for his ceremonial sidearm. "I wouldn't," Dominic advised quietly. "A deal's a deal." His gaze shifted to Nika, still bound to the pole. Their eyes met, blue against dark brown, and something electric passed between them. Not recognition exactly, but a shared defiance that transcended species. The commander, calculating his options, found none acceptable. With the eyes of the entire station upon him, backing down would mean losing face, potentially his position. Fighting would mean certain defeat. His training selected the least damaging option. "Release her," he ordered through clenched teeth. "The hegemony honors its wagers." Guards who could still stand hurried to unbind Nika. She rubbed her wrists, watching Dominic with open curiosity. "This isn't over," Threll hissed at Dominic. "No one humiliates the hegemony." Dominic shrugged. "You manage that without my help." Our escape sirens wailed across the station. Through the viewport of Dominic's quarters, they could see hegemony reinforcements flooding the plaza, scanning faces, checking identifications. "They're looking for both of us now," Nika stated, her voice remarkably steady given the circumstances. "Yes." Dominic moved with practiced efficiency, retrieving a compact pulse weapon and a small bag that clinked with the sound of credit chips from a hidden compartment in the wall. "There's a maintenance shaft behind the recycling center," he continued. "It leads to the lower levels. We can access Auxiliary Docking Bay 6 from there." "Of course you know that," she observed, studying him with new intensity. "And I assume you have a ship." The corner of his mouth twitched upward. "I like having options." With practiced efficiency, he disabled his quarters' security system. As they slipped into the corridor, Nika asked, "Why risk everything for me? Especially knowing what the hegemony does to those who defy them." Dominic sealed the hatch behind them before answering. "Maybe I hate watching the powerful prey on the innocent," he said, voice echoing in the narrow passage. "Or maybe," she countered, "you've been looking for an excuse to stop pretending you're nothing but an engineer." His eyes met hers in the dim emergency lighting, reflecting something dangerous and ancient. "Let's hope you never find out what I really am." They moved through the maintenance tunnels with Dominic leading confidently, navigating the labyrinthine network without hesitation. Twice they froze as hegemony patrols passed nearby, and twice Dominic seemed to know exactly when to move and when to hide. Finally, they reached a small viewport overlooking Auxiliary Bay 6. A sleek vessel waited below, unlike any ship Nika had seen before. Its hull design suggested both speed and stealth capabilities well beyond standard civilian craft. "That's not a commercial transport," she whispered. "No," Dominic agreed. "It's not. And you're not just an engineer, are you?" Before he could answer, klaxons blared throughout the station. "Attention all personnel," the automated system announced. "Emergency lockdown protocols initiated. Remain at your stations." Dominic cursed under his breath. "They're sealing the docking bays. We need to move. Now." Truth and revelation, they sprinted through the access tunnel toward the bay, but the massive doors were already beginning to close. Nika calculated the timing. They wouldn't make it. Not both of them. Dominic seemed to make the same calculation. Without warning, he swept her into his arms and accelerated to an impossible speed. The world blurred around them as he raced through the narrowing gap, clearing it with barely a millimeter to spare. Inside the bay, he set her down gently. Nika staggered, disoriented by the experience. That's not possible," she gasped, her scientific mind rejecting what her body had just experienced. "No human can move at that velocity." "You're right," Dominic acknowledged, moving toward the ship and activating its boarding ramp with a coded signal. "No human can." As the ramp descended, 6 hegemony soldiers burst through a side entrance, weapons raised. "Halt!" the lead officer commanded. "By order of Commander Threll, you are both condemned for treason against the hegemony." Dominic sighed. "Stay behind me," he told Nika calmly. The soldiers opened fire simultaneously. What happened next defied everything Nika understood about physics. Dominic moved like liquid mercury, his body flowing between plasma bolts with mathematical precision. He reached the first soldier before the man could adjust his aim, disarmed him with a simple twist, and used the weapon to disable 2 others. The remaining 3 backed away, firing continuously. Dominic seemed to anticipate each shot, moving just far enough to avoid the deadly energy bursts without wasting motion. "What are you?" One soldier gasped as Dominic approached him. something the hegemony tried to erase from history. Dominic replied, his voice suddenly cold. With 3 precise strikes, the remaining soldiers collapsed. He turned back to Nika, who stood frozen on the boarding ramp. We need to go, now. Inside the ship, Dominic moved to the pilot's console, his fingers dancing across the controls. The engines hummed to life with barely a vibration. Strap in, he instructed, not looking up from his preparations. This might get interesting. Nika secured herself in the co-pilot's seat, her mind racing with questions. You're going to explain, she stated. Not a request. Once we're clear. The ship lifted smoothly, hovering above the bay floor as Dominic assessed their options. The massive bay doors remained sealed, 3 feet of reinforced durasteel, designed to withstand explosive decompression. That's a problem, Nika observed. Dominic smiled thinly. Not really. He pressed a sequence of buttons on a secondary console. A focused energy beam erupted from the ship's forward array, cutting through the bay doors like they were fabric. The vacuum of space began pulling at the damaged section. Hold on, he warned, increasing power to the engines. The ship shot forward, through the opening, just as emergency force fields activated to prevent station decompression. They were free. The sanctuary. 3 days later, they drifted in orbit around an unmarked moon in a remote system far from hegemony patrol routes. Dominic had remained evasive about their destination, focusing instead on ensuring they weren't being tracked. Nika had given him space, processing everything she'd witnessed. Her scientific training demanded explanations, but patience had always been one of her strengths. We're Project Prometheus. The research facility was more advanced than anything Nika had seen, even in the hegemony's premier laboratories. Scientists of various species worked side by side, their research displayed on holographic interfaces that showed genetic sequences, molecular structures, and medical data. Before the hegemony rose to power, Admiral Lithera explained as they walked, the Alliance of Free Worlds conducted research into human potential. Project Prometheus, they called it. They reached a sealed door that required both retinal and DNA verification. Dominic placed his palm on the scanner, and the door slid open to reveal a chamber filled with historical records and preserved equipment. The goal was to create enhanced humans who could adapt to any environment, survive conditions that would kill ordinary people, and serve as peacekeepers across the galaxy. Lithera continued. They succeeded beyond their expectations. Nika examined the displays with growing comprehension. You're saying? The project created 12 prototype subjects, Dominic interjected quietly. Enhanced strength, accelerated neural processing, adaptable physiology. We were meant to be guardians. Then the hegemony rose, Lithera added grimly. They feared what they couldn't control, so they hunted the prototypes. Officially, all were destroyed. Unofficially? Nika asked, though she already knew the answer. 3 of us survived, Dominic said. We've been working against the hegemony ever since establishing these sanctuaries, gathering evidence of their lies, protecting those who defy them. Nika's mind raced with implications. Your combat abilities, your impossible speed, your knowledge of station systems. I was designed to adapt and integrate, he confirmed. 3 years ago, I established my cover on Helios 7 to access their genetic research database. And then you met me, she realized. Was I part of your mission too? Something vulnerable flashed across his face. No. You were unexpected. The choice. Later, in a quiet observation dome overlooking the settlement, Nika processed everything she'd learned. Dominic found her there, gazing at the stars. I accessed the colony's archives, she said without preamble. Found something interesting about Project Prometheus. He joined her, keeping a respectful distance. What did you find? The prototypes weren't just physically enhanced, she continued. Your creators built in one critical weakness. You were designed to be solitary operators. Emotional attachments were considered potential vulnerabilities. His silence confirmed her discovery. Yet here you are, she pressed, risking everything to save a Novarian scientist. Why? Dominic finally met her gaze. Because some connections transcend design parameters. She moved closer, the bioluminescent patterns at her temples brightening. Is that what this is? A connection that transcends parameters? I don't know, he admitted. I've spent my existence fighting, surviving, completing objectives. This is unexpected, she finished for him. Terrifying, he corrected with surprising honesty. Nika placed her hand on his chest, feeling his accelerated heartbeat. Your genetic enhancements make you stronger, faster, but they didn't make you less human where it matters. The colony's artificial gravity fluctuated slightly, a scheduled power conservation measure in the observation dome. Their bodies lightened, feet barely touching the floor. Nika steadied herself against his chest, her blue fingers contrasting sharply against his dark shirt. What happens now? She whispered. Dominic's hand rose to her face, tracing the luminescent patterns at her temple. They brightened at his touch, responding to her quickening pulse. Now, he murmured, we give the hegemony something truly worth fearing. Their lips met as they drifted in the reduced gravity, bodies rotating slowly beneath the canopy of stars. The beginning of resistance. The colony's alert system shattered the moment, harsh red lights pulsing as warning klaxons blared. Proximity. Alert, the automated system announced. Hegemony vessels detected. They rushed to the command center where Admiral Lethera was already coordinating defenses. They found us faster than expected, she stated grimly. 3 cruisers, standard attack formation. How? Dominic demanded. We disabled all tracking systems. A young technician approached nervously. Sir, we detected an unusual quantum signature from Dr. Zoran's research files. The hegemony must have embedded a trace algorithm. Nika paled. My research, I encrypted everything, but it doesn't matter now, Lethera interrupted. Evacuation protocols are already initiated. The vulnerable residents are moving to the backup site. Dominic studied the tactical display. They're deploying dropships. Standard invasionary procedure. I can help, Nika said suddenly. My research, the real research I was conducting in secret, it isn't just about genetic compatibility. All eyes turned to her. I discovered something in Novarian DNA that resonates with specific human genetic markers that exist in higher concentration in your enhanced genome, she explained rapidly to Dominic. It creates a bond, a literal biological bridge. With the right activation sequence, 2 bonded individuals can share abilities, strength. That's impossible, one of the scientists interrupted. So is a human moving fast enough to dodge plasma. Bolts, she countered. I need 5 minutes in your lab. Lethera nodded sharply. Go, we'll buy you time. In the lab, Nika worked with frantic precision, synthesizing a compound while explaining to Dominic what would happen. The formula will temporarily activate the dormant genetic bridges between us, she said, filling a medical injector. Your enhanced abilities already exist in a quantum state of potentiality. That's how you access them instinctively. This will allow me to tap into that same field. Side effects? He asked pragmatically. Unknown, she admitted. But if I'm right, it could give us the advantage we need. The floor shook as the first hegemony weapons struck the colony's shields. Do it, he decided. Nika administered the compound to herself first, then to Dominic. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a circuit completing, something electric passed between them. Her skin glowed with new intensity as his enhanced awareness flowed into her consciousness. Simultaneously, her Novarian bioluminescence spread across his skin in fractal patterns. I can feel it, she gasped. Your perception, it's like seeing the world through mathematics. He flexed his hand, watching the patterns of light flow across his skin. And your bioelectric field, it's amplifying my abilities. Another explosion rocked the facility. Time to test our theory, he said grimly. The final stand. They emerged from the lab transformed. Where Dominic had moved with impossible speed before, now both he and Nika flowed like quicksilver through the battle-torn settlement. Hegemony troops had breached the outer defenses, their white armor stark against the natural environment. With shocking efficiency, the bonded pair tore through the invasion force. Nika, accessing Dominic's combat knowledge through their shared neural bridge, disabled enemy weapons with precise strikes. Dominic, enhanced further by her Novarian bioelectric field, generated controlled energy pulses that overloaded hegemony tech with a touch. They reached the command center just as Commander Threll himself led a squad of elite troops through the broken doors. "You," he snarled upon seeing them, their skin glowing with shared bioluminescence. "The very abomination we sought to prevent." "The future you fear," Dominic corrected. "The truth you tried to suppress," Nika added, their thoughts now flowing. In perfect synchronization, Threll raised his weapon. "The hegemony maintains order. Without us, chaos would consume the galaxy. These unions, they destabilize everything we've built." "They free everyone you've enslaved," Admiral Lethera countered, emerging from behind a damaged console. "Your genetic purity laws were never about biology, they were about control." "Enough!" Threll fired his weapon, the plasma bolt streaking toward the Admiral. Nika moved with borrowed speed, her hand catching the energy and redirecting it in a way that should have been impossible. The bolt dispersed harmlessly against the wall. Dominic stepped forward. "You have a choice, Commander. Retreat now. Tell your masters what you've seen here. That their lies about genetic incompatibility have been exposed, that a new resistance is forming. Or," Threll challenged. Nika answered, her voice harmonizing with Dominic's in an eerie duet. "Or discover what happens when your worst nightmare comes true." The commander hesitated, truly afraid for the first time. "This isn't over," he finally said, signaling his troops to fall back. "No," Dominic agreed. "It's just beginning." Epilogue, A New Dawn.